In appreciation of your dedication to the health and well-being of the Dutch Shepherd breed, in your work in the discovery of inflammatory myopathy, myositis, and the development of a genetic test, Karen Wobleski, DVM. I said that because I have to take, we have to take the plaque back because they actually put DMV instead of DVM. Allen Animal Hospital will forever be remembered as a giant contributor to the welfare of our beloved breed. Thank you, the Dutch Shepherd Dog Club of America. Yes. Yes, Mom. Okay. Just put the mic down, Sherry. You don't need to do that. And then that's for... This plaque is for, we're going to send it to Katie Miner. She is the woman responsible for helping us in the development of the test. It's basically the same thing. It's University of Minnesota Canine Genetics Laboratory. Will forever be remembered as a giant contributor to the welfare of our breed. And thanks from the German Shepherd Dog Club. And this is going to Dutch Shepherd, sorry. Wow. And this is going to Katie Miner. It can't be, because she's up in Minnesota. Now, the only thing that I have to add before Karen starts is that I would like to have people's input. We'll put it on the Dutch Shepherd Dog Club website, but I'm gathering information to see how people would feel about breeders, how they would feel. We all know that fawns exist in our purebred lines. I would like to see if we could change it so that we're not essentially lying on our registration forms, that we can say that the dogs that are produced, yes, we have fawns, and they get a performance pedigree only, so they cannot be used for reproduction. It's something that I'll put it in, better wording and stuff, and then we'll put it to the club to see if that's something that they would like us to approach UKC with. Because at this moment, the fawn Dutch Shepherd basically looks like a Malinois. It is coming out of 3 generations of purebred, even more so. Some of the long-coated people have 60 generations of purebred Dutch Shepherds, and they're still getting fawns. So instead of allowing the fawn to be bred, we'd like to say that the fawn is absolutely a purebred dog, but he's not suitable for breeding or for showing in conformation. So we'll put it out there so that people can see what they think. It's not going to affect the average person, I don't think, but I think it's going to be something that just shows that we're considering moving towards yet another breed selection in our breed. Okay? So it'll be on the Dutch Shepherd Dog Club of America. So without further ado, I will introduce again Dr. Karen Wobleski, DVM.
In numbers, lady, I was wondering, does anybody have any idea of what percentage of Dutchies are fawn? 1%, less than 1%? I mean, anybody make a guess? Can you hear me?
No, I have no idea. Maybe less than 1%.
Okay. Not very many. So we have to take that into consideration when we're looking at anything. If we're going to exclude it from the gene pool, we really have to look when we have a breed like ours that is such a tiny breed, such a small gene pool. We have to really examine if the benefit outweighs the risk as far as excluding certain whatever it is, if it's going to be a color, or it kind of is a good segue into the stuff about the myopathy. I don't know if many of you were here last year when we gave the talk, but we were kind of in flux at that time. They had some markers that they were looking at, but a lot has happened in the last year. Thanks to so many people that sent in DNA of their Dutch Shepherds, they've been able to find out exactly how this deadly disease is transmitted. And basically it is an inheritable disease, and it's an autosomal recessive disease. So, all of our Dutchies are one of 3 things. They're either clear of this disease, carriers for this disease, or affected, although I don't think anybody here, you'd know if you had an affected dog. So essentially we have lots of Dutchies running around that are either clear or are carriers. So in the carrier state, there are no symptoms whatsoever. The dog could give it to its offspring, but it would never have any symptoms itself. So I don't know if any of you have gone onto the University of Minnesota's website where they offer this new DNA test. It's super easy to use. You can do it with a cheek swab. It's $65, which is really, really inexpensive for all the information that it gives us. But it will really, if we start to incorporate that as a screening test along with the other things like the surf eye testing and the hips and elbow checks by OFA, we can keep the breed going in the right direction. I did make a couple little, when I looked at the website, and they denote either it's a normal gene or it's a deleterious gene, so N and D, that's what they showed on the website, which I thought, if any of you guys might remember this, it is a lot easier to understand and remember what autosomal recessive is. So basically, for this disease, we're going to use B and B instead of their N and D, just because it's the exact same process, but this is visually a little bit more familiar to people. And so if you bring two clear parents, which are represented by the capital B, capital B, capital B, capital B, all of the offspring, 100% of the offspring will be clear of the gene. Okay? All right. If you use one parent that is clear and one parent that is a carrier, you will end up with this scenario where 50% of the offspring will be clear and 50% of the offspring will be carriers. If you use two carrier parents, we end up with this scenario, which is 25% of the offspring will be clear, 50% will be carrier, and 25% will be affected. So this is the scenario that we ended up happening with the myositis dogs that we've identified.
Yeah, can we go back one? Because I don't understand the little bit.
Okay. So let's see. Okay. It did show. Okay, this might help. Okay, so the clear is capital B, sorry. Carrier is big B, little b, and then affected is little b, little b. Okay, so, yeah, so we really lucked out. It doesn't feel very lucky, but we really did in that we were able, if you think about it, to define a brand new condition that had never been seen before. Find out the mode of inheritance. Find out where exactly it was on the gene and develop a commercial DNA test in less than 8 years. That's incredible. There are so many breeds that are struggling with diseases and conditions that are multifactorial and they're genetically so complicated that they can't have any screening tests. So this is actually a really, really lucky situation that we're in. And hopefully we'll be able to use that to the breed's advantage by using it as a screening test. I know on the University of Minnesota's site, I mean, it's really easy to find it. If you just look up inflammatory myopathy, it'll pop right up. And there's submission forms there. There's exactly how to handle the samples. You can use cheek swabs, you can use whole blood, you can use dew claws. There's a whole bunch of methods of the samples that you can send in. But it's all pretty straightforward, and I am around and I'm happy to answer questions. I've done a lot of the testing, personally handled a lot of the samples, interpreted a lot of the results, but even the interpretation is pretty straightforward and pretty easy. So that's what I know now about the test. Does anybody have any questions? Those of you that weren't here, are there questions about the disease, the condition? Yeah?
So what exactly are the symptoms of the disease? When you have a dog have it,
What are the symptoms of it? So the earliest symptoms tend to be bunny hopping in the back legs. Most of the dogs that had the condition were thought to maybe have hip dysplasia because of the way they were moving in the back. But they all had good hips that were developing orthopedically, so their skeleton was really sound. And they started having more trouble with their back ends. They were uncomfortable. They moved funny. They had stiff legs. You could just, when you would see them after several months, you could tell that they didn't have a fluid movement. And as the disease progressed, it causes inflammation of the muscles. muscles of the neck, muscles of the limbs. So these dogs were not well muscled. Most of them actually held their head kind of down when they would move. And also, all of them on a blood test had a really elevated CPK, which is a muscle enzyme. So they check something similar to that for people when they have heart attacks, because there's inflammation of the heart muscle. And all of the affected dogs had CPK elevations. So, yeah, and it progresses. All of the dogs, unfortunately, had to be euthanized due to quality of life reasons before they were 2 years of age. Because it is painful, it's a painful condition. A lot of scar tissue gets set down in the muscles. The dog that they have on the website is an example. It was really sad to actually watch because it's a really good dog. So none of the other dogs, once we knew what was going to lay ahead for them, none of the other dogs were allowed to get into that kind of a condition before they were euthanized. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
I don't know if you're almost done, so sorry if I'm jumping the gun here.
Uh-huh.
And no, this is nothing on anything recent social media post. Okay, so don't think it's going there. What? And obviously the information is out. Is this funny? Okay. Obviously the information is out there, right? How do you guys, or how do we disseminate the information to more people and breeders so that more people can get on board with knowing the symptoms, right? And also testing their dogs.
Well, word of mouth, obviously, is
For sure.
one thing. And I think that we have to be out there, hitting the pavement that this is something we want to do for the breed. And OFA also will register the results. I don't know if you're aware of that,
Yep.
too. So that's super important. I think that we should start really thinking about having all of the breeding dogs screened for, it's $65 per dog. That's pretty inexpensive for something that we could know what the status is of breeding dogs. But other than word of mouth and having breeders want to do the right thing inherently for their breed, I don't get on a lot of forums and stuff. I'm assuming that there are such things where people encourage each other to do things that are in the best interest of the breed. So I'm happy to talk anywhere and to anyone about it, but I would ask all breeders, I don't know how many of you are breeders, but to encourage everybody to be testing the dogs.
Have you guys sent out? I mean, obviously there's a lot of breeders out there, but there's few around the country that are kind of keep producing a lot of dogs, right? And they're well known.
That are what?
Producing dogs and are well known, right?
Yeah.
Have you guys composed like any type of email or information and sent it out to contact people about these are our recent findings?
Well, Penn Vet Working Dog Center has been really, really helpful too. There's the ones that really helped us get a lot of the donations of DNA.
Yep.
And I posted last Sunday a thank you to everybody who participated, and everybody who did participate should have received their results. So if anybody did participate in the research part of it and you don't have results on your dog, please let me know, because that was supposed to happen.
I think Carol, something to add.
Yeah, and then I think it's a problem in the breed, so just like every breed has issues, and I think we need to acknowledge, okay, it is what it is, we have this, what can we do to make things better?
How long has the test actually been published?
About a month.
So how come it wasn't posted when it was originally out?
It's only been commercially available for about 1 month. So before that, it was all research.
So how do we find out about that other than?
Well, you're here. So
Right,
this
there's
is
only,
kind of an announcement.
there's only
for the
25 people here and
commercial.
18 are from you.
Yep.
Or I should say from Cheryl and Carol.
Okay, so
we
what
just so
suggestions
happened to
do you
live in
have? Yeah, what do you think would be a good?
Well, the one suggestion I just kind of alluded to, composing an email to breeders around the country. So, I mean, that was one suggestion. That's a pretty simple one. And I feel like Carol has a lot to add, so we should listen to Carol. No. I don't think it's hostile asking questions and posing questions. Well, I'm sorry that there's a message lost. I'm asking questions on how we can decipher information and disseminate to other breeders such as Ashley, such as Aiken, right? Such as Christy. Those are just examples. Those are examples. And if you want to talk about hostility, 4 people just yelled at me at the same time.
If I can make a comment, we were, Karen was going to be making the official presentation today at the show. Following up with the seminar that she gave at last year's show, which folks did attend.
For sure.
You were made aware last year. I'm going to be sending a press release through a service.
So that's great. That's proactive. I like that.
I haven't had time to do it yet because we were getting ready for today.
Right.
We put it up a smidge early because the test results came out and everybody started comparing information on a small little Facebook page. We have put it up on the Dutch Shepherd Dog Club of America. We also put it up on Sherricard Kennels because our ownership are also board members of the Dutch Shepherd Club. So right there, that's 1,625 page views a month.
Exactly.
So that little bit is done. We're going to send a press release, of course, to AKC, to UKC, probably Canadian Kennel Club.
Yeah.
I'll have to find out about Mexican. Haven't had a smidge of time to work on this because we've been building
Right.
up to this. As for Facebook posts, I know that Penn Vet has it. I know that several breeders.
Right.
Karen's been working with 40 gazillion breeders for the last 8 years, so
Really?
more people are
Okay.
probably
That was a great answer. That's fantastic. I like that. Next part of my question, and I think Cheryl could probably answer this one, and probably Carol because she watches pedigrees. Have you been able to, obviously I understand genetics and stuff like that, but have you been able to trace back to a common female or male in the history between alpha and going back between like Russian Touche that you think could possibly have infected population and that we can look at? And if so, who do you think that male or female could possibly be, so the rest of us can kind of take a look?
Jasko von Neuerlin.
Okay. Have you talked to
Pedigree.
it's Yasko, I can tell you.
Von Neuerlin. Pedigrees that I put up.
That's what we both found too, and we just want to know if your information was
But-
kind of going to ours.
How much further back does that go?
Well, yeah, exactly. You start losing pieces too. But Yasko is who we found too, and I think that obviously could be very probable if you found the same thing that we found, because we want to try to stay away from that too, obviously, and know what to look for also.
You need to test your dog.
She has been.
Yes, I heard you. Thank you.
She has lines in France, several different places. So if she is part of the one who has created, is a carrier and has gone on, it's truly a possibility that it's affected in a large bit of the population. So, but unfortunately, a lot of people still don't know about it. I know my European friends are kind of starting to freak out because they don't know how to get their testing across. They don't know if they should do blood. They don't know if they should do cheek swabs, which again goes back to you really need to formulate something easy, especially for people who don't even speak
It's on the
English.
website. They give you all the
Is it in French? Is
I
it
don't
in
know that
German?
it's in French, but you can use Google Translate. That's what we all do.
Right, but I'm
Try to
also
speak
I'm
French,
also
right?
saying a lot of people they don't know about it.
No,
And
it'll get out.
okay.
You guys have known for over a year.
We knew
So-
that you guys were starting a test last year, and we were told we could send DNA to Karen, but we're not going to send our DNA to you guys. So
I have another question. And don't just calm down. I have a question. I'm honestly trying to be genuine in my questions here.
We're really concentrating on how we can help the dogs.
Right,
You know,
so-
obviously there's a lot of feelings, and first of all, I'd like to say, as a veterinarian, whatever there's content, everything we shared last year was with Cheryl's approval, and that was out there. If any of you ever contact me personally, it will be between you and me or whoever it is. Nothing, information doesn't go out from my office ever unless it's been.
And this could happen to anybody, so it's not like, I mean,
Right.
it's the luck of the dice. It happened, right?
Right.
And it's good that it happened. I mean, it's bad and it's good, right?
Right.
So, and going into my next question, you said that this happened, you got the test in 8 years, and that is fast in the scientific community, and that is awesome. I like that. One problem that German Shepherd people have had with DM tests is sometimes it's not coming back accurate. Is this test more accurate, or time will tell than
Well, our
the...
sample size is really small so far,
Right.
right? Because we only had 5 effective dogs, and all 5 dogs had small b
Right.
on that gene, you know, that area on the strand. None of the other dogs that have been tested have had symptoms, you know, so it hasn't shown to be any other configuration, but there's only been about 150 or 170 dogs so far checked. So that is one thing, but statistically, and it's not me, University of Minnesota felt a great deal of confidence that it represents, they have a mode of inheritance. It's not a complicated way, that it's passed down. So we always have to kind of wait and see what else happens, but so far it's all pointing towards that. And we obviously couldn't wait for 1,000 dogs DNA to be able to make a call.
Right.
But they're researchers, and that's what they do, and they run numbers,
Sure.
and so they felt, and that's where we were last year. They were looking at it and examining it, but they were nowhere near. They needed all those samples. And so now finally they say yes. And there's a whole bunch of University of California, Davis. This is not something I'm doing, in the wrong. I'm just trying to.
So in your personal opinion, do you think it'll be more accurate than the old DM tests?
Yes.
I think so too. Modern technology and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Has your entire kennel been done to expand the database, or maybe it already was done? Are you doing those all through OFA so we can see that? Like, are you gonna? Is there any way we can get like the OFA, and this would be for your working the Shepherd page or the OFA to link back so you can kind of access it easily on your website? Right. And I don't know if you can input that in like a tablet on your Dutch Shepherd.
So if you look
It'll
at
list.
here's hips, here's elbows, here's IM, here's patellas, whatever it is that you may have tested.
Right, but what I'm saying is some people might not be as familiar as we all are to OFA. So I'm saying, is there any way to put it on your Dutch Shepherd page so people new to the breed can start looking and researching and bettering themselves?
OFA database in the Dutch Shepherd.
Okay.
It's a huge list. And it pulls up all the Dutch Shepherds.
Gotcha. And that's what I'm talking about. Because I don't go on that every day, so I didn't know.
Yeah, the other thing about listing it and registering it through the OFA is they do it for a nominal fee if your dog is already registered. So if your dog has hips and elbows, through them, then it's a very nominal fee to add it on. I don't know what their charge is going to be if that's the only thing that you are going to ask them to put on. I would imagine they'd ask for a larger fee to list the dog. So it's just something to consider.
What is the percentage of carriers in the tested population?
Right now, 8%.
And how many dogs were tested so far?
That's about between 150 and 160.
Okay. And I think the university recommended that carriers should still be bred.
That is, you have to do it intelligently. So I think what they're trying to say is don't exclude carrier dogs because the gene pool is so small. But if you're gonna breed carrier dogs, only breed them to clear dogs. So there's zero chance of producing effective dogs.
Could I make a possible recommendation that the Dutch Shepherd Club posts that due to the current small population tested, that maybe we shouldn't jump to breeding carriers if in fact that percentage is actually very low and we could eradicate the disease very quickly? So there's a small tested population of dogs. So right now it's reading that there's 8% that are carriers, which seemingly for that number, that's a relatively possible large amount. So it was recommended by the university to continue to breed carriers, of course, wisely. But my suggestion is, because this is new and the tested population is small, that maybe the Dutch Shepherd Club should make a recommendation that at this time to possibly not breed carriers, just in case we do end up getting more dogs in that are clear after clear after clear after clear, that we could actually potentially eradicate this mutation from the population.
What she's saying is the percent could actually be more like 1% after we get 2,000 dogs tested. Right? And if you're at one...
How many dogs there are right now in U.S. Dutch Shepherds?
Well, we're talking kind of globally, right? Because you're trying to get European imports or European dogs tested too. So if you look at what happens to the Dobermans, right? They were actually at 40% of whatever it was until they stopped breeding them, so they ran out of genetics. But if we're talking...
And they were breeding against what?
What was it called?
Like any Von Wilder brand.
They're still in us, so.
Right. Well, yeah, 100% they are. But
They haven't made any
because you could totally almost, if it was at 1% or less, or even 7%, theoretically that's a very small population. Because if you start breeding a carrier to not clear, you're still adding in 25% of those puppies every single time. So you can go from 1%, or let's just say 8, to 50%. Sorry, to now all of a sudden you actually have 25, 30, 40% are actually recessive carriers.
Well, just like any, I'm not a breeder, so I don't have to evaluate, all the different pressures of what dog I would be trying to perpetuate. But I think all of us would probably agree that if everything was equal and you had the dogs were exactly the same and had all the positive attributes, and you had one carrier and one clear, you're going to go with the clear every time.
What is your opinion of that, Cheryl?
Sense.
I'm not breeding carriers.
At all. So that's kind of our where we're going to. So that's what I was just wondering.
Well, that's the most conservative, and you're never going to go wrong to do that as long as
For sure.
you feel like you have enough other genetic diversity.
For sure.
To
Yes, but in the Dobermans, they have two streams located together to breed carriers too, because the population is so small.
Right, very small.
And if you took out all the carriers, but I mean, yeah, it's up to you guys.
No, I agree, but I'm a large.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, so I'm just saying, there's probably no hard answers at this point, and you gotta go with what your conscience says.
Because realistically, Dutchies are pretty problem free. I mean, yeah, we're gonna have hips and elbows, but Dobermans are very problematic, and you would have like no genes left if you stop breeding.
Yeah, it's 60% supposedly, so it's a totally different thing.
And this, we have the benefit of having a pretty straightforward test. Even the cardiomyopathy markers aren't anything like this test.
You guys are lucky.
So,
Yeah,
if you had to have something, something we can deal with. Yeah, Carol.
You would ask a question about numbers. The UKC has just over 1,000 registered Dutch Shepherd dogs under the age of 12. Realistically, there's 40 gazillion people breeding the dogs that don't roll a bay, or they do hips but have a bad elbow and they breed anyway.
Yeah.
That type of thing. But they don't test at all.
Right.
I think that the UKC population can probably get a good amount of information, but there are many, many people out there that aren't in the same circles. They don't read the same information. So I think it would be very, very difficult, as it would be with any breed, to contact all the breeders.
The other thing, just food for thought, that we don't think about too much here in the U.S. is, and I thought about, where did this originate, and how did it come from Europe. I spoke to Diane Shelton, who is the veterinarian who actually is the pathologist that helped make the diagnosis, and she verified that to date there aren't any diagnosed cases in Europe. But if 3-month-old puppies look like one of the affected puppies, I guarantee in Europe it would have just been euthanized and it'd be taken out of circulation. So just because people aren't diagnosing it doesn't mean the gene isn't running around there, is what I'm trying to say.
So going back to I think what Cheryl said earlier about the fawn and the maybe trying to not breed any carriers but still keep genetic variation, are you looking to add in Malinois into the line?
No.
Not at all. Even though it would give you genetic diversification.
No, because I believe the Dutch Shepherd in Europe still has enough diversity to come over. And this lady's dog is a perfect example. It's a very nice dog and very good conformation. And we just have to import from people who know what they're doing.
Right.
I've already tried to do that. I had to abandon the 2 dogs that I had because I had differences.
From the Malinois, you mean?
Ledger and LaRue.
Oh, okay.
Because LaRue, or Ledger,
I got you. Okay.
So, but I'll try again, and that's one of the reasons why I'm pleased to meet.
Yeah, and that is one of the things. I think we do have to try again, and we have to learn, and we have to move forward. And so many, dealt with other breeders that just put their head in the sand, you know, and they don't want to face what's going on, or if the dog lives to eat, that's good enough. But I don't think that's what we should be striving for at all. I think they have a healthy working dog that can work up to the time it's 10 or 12 and then retire for a couple of years is really awesome, and not too bold of something to strive for. Were you going to ask something, Caroline? No. Caroline? Oh, Mom.
I'm trying to do this, got my girl dogs, and I got some little dogs. Anyway, I'm just saying, I just heard pieces of this, and I guess I need to know, as breeders, you guys are breeders, my brother are breeders too. When you sell your puppies, when you sell them to people that you may want to breed, are you informing them of this yourself?
I don't plan on having any carriers.
No,
so
do you
yes.
still inform people in case, I know you don't, I know mine is not true.
Yep.
But I mean, if you did, would you go ahead and do it?
Oh, absolutely. If I decided to breed a carrier, I am going to breed one carrier.
Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
carrier.
There's one dog in my mind that I want to take a litter from. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to test all the puppies. And so I'm going to do the whole litter. I'll keep the dogs that are carrier. The dogs that are carriers will be sold as neuter dogs.
I'm sure Cheryl and I are in the same boat. We already actually contacted everybody who possibly, from the information we've had so far, going back to Rush Touche and with Airlines, we've
Chance of protecting your dog yet?
no.
We have swabs on the way.
We have swabs, but nothing's been sent in. But we have contacted all previous puppy owners, or I should say purchasers, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have a litter on the ground right now to tell people about, obviously. It's due soon, but we're actually probably going to be keeping back the whole thing, so or almost.
Because I know going back first when I raised all the English bulldogs, no matter how hard you try and tell somebody when you sell a puppy, and hey, you know, we have these issues with the bloodline, et cetera, with the health, et cetera. Bulldogs are known for that. Breeders got to be able to take the responsibility to tell them, not just say, hey, maybe it's going to be there, maybe it's not going to be there.
Well, one of the great things about this is you can test the puppies when they're little.
That's what I'm saying.
And then you can know what their status is before you sell them.
Yeah.
So that's
100%.
awesome.
That'd be a plus on any breeder.
Yeah, for sure. So there are lots of silver linings in this difficult, you know, it's hard to watch those dogs, but only...
Especially if the dog's homozygous for the gene, you want to test that dog before you possibly send it home and have somebody have some heartache.
Although, yeah.
Brandon hopefully gets tested.
For sure.
I haven't, it's a good question. I don't know if it's about a month or it might even be less, but I think it's weeks, not like before when they were doing the research. But I think they have things going at a pretty decent clip now. Yeah, and I will pose that question to Katie Miner. She's the one who's really helping to facilitate handling the specimens and getting out results. But I think it's just a few weeks. So I think it is plausible, you know, that you could get results before puppies would go home. The only thing is you have to be careful. You can't do the cheek swabs when they're nursing because they could pick up DNA from the milk from the mom. So you have to go about, you know, your testing methodology slightly differently. But okay. Anybody else have any other questions or statements or comments?
It's good that you guys are addressing it right away.
No. Yep, it's difficult. It's very difficult, but it's the right thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I personally think, I had 8 years, thank you. So, none of this could be done without you.
it was an honor to be able to, yeah, I didn't know what we were seeing initially, but it helped me really network with some awesome, awesome people. And people want humans to be healthier, they want animals to be healthier, and so this is part, it takes a little expense, it takes energy, but you know, there's things out there that can make the lives of dogs better, so I'm really glad that we're at this point.
Honestly, you guys all did a great job. I mean, there's a lot of heartache, ups and downs, emotions, I'm sure, from everybody within, and so that's fantastic that you're getting this.
Yeah, thanks for actually doing the steps of figuring out who's the problem, not just sliding under the rug.
Right, that's what I say, that I'm a little bit concerned that there probably are other pockets that it could be occurring, but they're just pulled out of circulation and so nobody knows. But hopefully people in Europe can test too, and then we'll be in a better place. Pardon me?
They did 72 tests in the Netherlands.
Oh, good,
So,
good,
it started.
excellent. That's all we can ask for.
We're good.
All right, well, thank you everybody for coming out.